So I wanted to do this video to talk about how my experience has been so far using Sertraline. I believe in the US it's called Zoloft. I've now been on Sertraline for about 3 months, and I'm actually due a review this afternoon, so I'm due to see my doctor later today, where I don't actually know where it's going to go next. I don't know if I'm going to continue or if they're going to wean me off it. So it sort of started back in May when I went to see my therapist, who I'd been seeing for about a year, and I'd been doing really well, even though I'd experienced another sort of low in my sort of mental health cycle that I've been going through. I've suffered for 3 years with really bad anxiety and sort of like a poor mental health. I don't like to say I have mental health issues, but I have at stages poor mental health, which I try and work to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And in May I went to see my therapist, who's fantastic, and he said to me, because Rich, it sounds like you're doing some really great cognitive stuff, and you're doing some mindfulness practice, which is like, it's great. He goes, but for some of the things that you're still telling me, he goes, it sounds like you could just do with a boost and a pick-me-up. And he goes, I would really recommend you go and see your doctor. He goes, because it's coming up to a year now that we've been talking, and I want you to sort of get back to, where you were before you came to sort of started seeing me, in terms of being really positive and, waking up every morning feeling really optimistic and having that spring in your step. So I was like, okay. And he's like, well, I think you should go and see your GP and maybe, ask if you can be recommended a sort of mild antidepressant. So at first I was a bit apprehensive. I think I grew up with all these fears around antidepressants, and, I'd seen people close to me, use antidepressants. And it's just, I think in society in general, we've been it's been given this sort of like bad name, this bad rep. So straight away for me, I was like, oh no, I can't do that. However, I did make an appointment to go and see my doctor. It was the first time I went to my doctor to talk about my mental health, because I genuinely didn't believe that the NHS could help in that situation. I know there are some groups that on the NHS which are available for like some sort of forms of talking therapy, but having been seeing my therapist, I didn't really need to go to other groups or anything like that. So anyway, I went to see my GP, and I sat down with them, and they took you through this questionnaire. I said, my therapist has recommended that I come and speak to you about this, and they took me through a series of questions, I guess, just to see what stage you are with your sort of mental health, and if you're a threat to yourself and things like that. So I think they have to ask these questions, and there's general standard questions about to do with how you think, alcohol usage, where you are on a scale of feeling like suicidal, for example. At the end of it, my GP said, it wouldn't be a bad thing if I start you on a sort of weak dose of a drug called Setraline. And I was like, okay, I've never heard of it. And she prescribed 50 milligram. I think it was a she. She prescribed 50 milligram and then told me to take half a tablet for the first week just to ease me into it. And then she said to go on to the 50 milligrams after a week and see how I get on. So I went and bought the prescription, and I didn't actually take it for a couple of days because I knew that I had read and listened to some videos on YouTube that sort of talked about the side effects. So I really knew what may occur, and I had some things going on that weekend where I didn't want to risk having those symptoms. So I think I got the prescription on a Friday, and I sort of left it Saturday and Sunday, and I started taking it on the Monday. So I went on to 25 milligrams, and the first few days were strange because I started to feel really nauseous, like in the morning, and by day 2 I was feeling super tired, and it's sort of what I expected. So I would sleep loads, still sleep more than 8 hours, and then come afternoon I would need to have a nap, put my head down, and it got to a point where you just can't function. Like I had to put my head down. Luckily I work for myself. I have a business partner who's quite understanding, who knows about the fact that I was about sort of taking medication, and I was able to sort of, take a couple of hours out of my day to put my head down and just sort of sleep it off. It was quite awful the first few days, just because you feel really drained, and I just felt like I really couldn't focus. I felt very, not just drowsy, but you just feel lifeless. Like I just felt like I had no energy, like I couldn't go to the gym, and it was almost like I just wanted to lay in bed all day. So the first few days were pretty tough. They were they weren't as bad as I thought. I thought that like the nausea was going to last for a while, but that wasn't too bad. And I'd say by sort of day 4 or 5, I've started to feel a lot better. I upped the dose to 50 milligrams after a week, and that didn't really have a huge knock-on effect in terms of side effects. I think I got used to it quite quickly. So within 2 weeks, I wasn't feeling the symptoms as bad as they were to begin with. The tiredness was still there, and I think that's probably one of the sort of most severe symptoms I had, was feeling like tired and drowsy a lot of the time. One of the other major symptoms I had was like severe dry mouth. It was like the worst, apart from like the tiredness, it was the worst thing whilst I was feeling the side effects. And I just needed to drink water like every couple of minutes, and it would just feel like there was just no moisture in my mouth. Like it was completely, like I was completely dehydrated. There was no liquid or any sort of moisture in my mouth, and that was pretty that wasn't nice at all. And I'd spoken to someone else who'd been on citalopram as well, and she was telling me how that was one of the worst things she's been experiencing, as well as like the tiredness. So but that kind of like eased really quickly, and having felt those for the first few weeks, I really started it changed very quickly, and I started to feel really good after a few weeks, which it really surprised me. And since then, I've only started to see sort of really positive effects of being on citalopram. Some of the positive effects being my anxiety has sort of disappeared. I mean, it's bizarre because I had anxiety for 3 years until this point. And I used to record and journal my anxiety every morning. So every morning I journal, and I would sort of note how bad my anxiety was. And I noticed as I was doing this through the course of taking the medication, I was sort of like the anxiety that I was noting down was less and less, to the point where now I don't have anxiety. Very rarely do I feel it like it creeps in, but it's so subtle that it's just, before it used to take over my morning. It used to take me a couple of hours to get back on my feet, and now I wake up, I feel really optimistic, I feel great. The way I can explain it is, I used to be quite glass half empty just throughout the day, and I now have this optimism and this sort of really strange positivity that it's, why I say strange, because for so long, having had really poor mental health, it feels really, it feels like I don't really, it feels alien, like I don't deserve it. And that sounds bizarre, but all of a sudden I started to feel like, I'm really positive about work, because one of the things that causes me a lot of anxiety is my work. People around me sort of weren't as irritating as I used to find people before I started taking the medication. And I say that because I live with people, and in the mornings when my anxiety was really bad, it was so easy to snap at people, family, and not because that's my nature, but just because it was so difficult to deal with the anxiety in the mornings that it's, anything like noise or like loud talking would really, really affect me and like trigger it and make it even worse. And I just started to notice that I was just a lot calmer. I felt more relaxed in the morning, and it really has surprised me, because I didn't have that much faith in it. Like I thought, how could a drug like that sort of have such a profound, make such a profound change? And for me, it has been life-changing. And I'm at a point now where I don't know which way it's going to go. On one hand, I feel a little bit anxious if the doctor says, I think it's time to come off it. At the same time, obviously, I know I don't want to be on it, don't want to get too used to it. I want to really strengthen my mental health by doing cognitive practice and mindfulness, so I'm more in control of it, and I have more of a grasp of how my mind works and how it sort of dips in and out of highs and lows. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm ready to come off it. So it'd be really interesting to come back and tell you about how the talk with the doctor goes and what comes out of it. I would say that through this process, one of the things that's really helped me is telling people around me. And I don't mean like going out on the streets and telling, people that, you're on like an antidepressant, or, you have mental health, like poor mental health. What I mean by that is talking to loved ones, people who you live with, really close friends, colleagues, and just being really open and honest about the fact that you're going through a difficult time. I think we're really fortunate that we're living in a time at the moment where mental health is talked about a lot more, and people are starting to be more understanding. It's not really a taboo, and it's not about, oh God, lock him up or lock her up in a mental asylum. I think a lot of people are starting to understand that it's on a sliding scale as to how severe it can be. And I just found by talking to people have started to open up to me. And it's happened in the most bizarre places, like, in the gym, or my hairdressers, or, people who have just been like, how's your day been? And I've been like, actually, it's been really rubbish today. I've, been suffering from anxiety, or, I've just been really feeling like blah. And they'll be like, man, I've been feeling the same thing. And, we'd start talking and you'd get on this conversation, and I'll tell them about I'm on medication. And they're like, well, I'm on medication. And this whole dialogue starts, and you just realize that you're not the only one. And I think also being really open and honest with my parents, my siblings, my cousins, best friends, has really allowed them to help me, and has allowed them to understand me better and know if I am sort of in a bad mood, or I'm in a sort of weak state of mind, they understand, and they're not sort of like, oh, what's wrong with you, And that used to happen, like, because I hadn't told some people, and they would get pissed off with me. And now they really understand, and it makes such a difference when you have that support system. I would say that I would recommend it to people who have been suffering from anxiety or a weak mental state. And I would say that don't look at it as something that is almost like the anti, don't look at it in a negative way. If you have a headache, you might take a painkiller, or if we have a virus, or we have like some sort of something where we need antibiotics, you wouldn't think twice before taking those medications. We take so many drugs on a day-to-day basis just for all sorts of things. And there just seems to be this thing I find when it comes to antidepressants, people, and I was the same, there's a stigma attached to it, and people sort of go, no, that's not for me, and I'm not that bad. And if it helps you every day feel better about yourself and helps you get through the day, and you feel a lot more energetic and optimistic, I really don't see what the harm is. I think it really requires you to use the medication alongside the cognitive stuff. So, maybe doing meditation or yoga, or, going for walks, or going to the gym, or just being within yourself and thinking and really understanding what is causing this and tackling that. And that whilst you're trying to tackle that, the medication I found has just gives you that boost. It gives you that sort of those good feelings, and that good energy, and those hormones that just, I guess it's like fixing that chemical imbalance. So I really think that if you're unsure, really think about the positive effects it can have, and start on ask your GP to start you off on a small dose, monitor it, be really, really sort of keep an eye on it, you know, and see how you get on. And yeah, like I feel that I would like to continue for a little bit longer, just because I feel like there is that fear that if I come off them, that I might slip back. But yeah, I don't know where it's going to go for me. But I will check in again and do another video and let you guys know what the next step is for me. And I really hope this has helped. And when I started on this journey, I watched so many of you guys on YouTube, which had really helped me. It really gave me confidence. So I hope that this can do, you know, it's my way of giving back. I hope this can do the same for you guys, or, you know, if you're new to this, I really hope it helps. And yeah, I'll definitely do an update in the next week or so. Please follow me on Instagram if you want to see more of my journey. I post a lot about sort of like positivity and how I'm sort of dealing with my mental health journey. Please subscribe if you want to see more. I hope to do sort of more in this series around mental health than my experience so far. And yeah, give it a like and share. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Cheers.